In the narrow, sun-drenched streets of Malabo, the capital city of Equatorial Guinea, one could often spot a familiar shop brightly painted, its windows full of bold patterned fabrics and stylish mannequins dressed in both traditional and Western clothes. Inside, the scent of jasmine incense mixed with the soft hum of Bollywood music and the rustle of fabric. Behind the counter, a petite woman with dark, sharp eyes and graceful poise would greet every customer with a warm smile and quiet confidence. Her name was Meera Desai. From Gujarat to the Gulf of Guinea. Born in Rajkot, Gujarat, India, Meera was the youngest daughter in a family of 5. Her father ran a modest textile business, and her mother was a schoolteacher. A childhood surrounded by fabric, colors, and commerce gave her an early knack for design and trade. But Meera's ambitions stretched beyond her family's small shop. She wanted to build something of her own, something bigger. After completing a degree in fashion merchandising in Mumbai, she spent several years working in Dubai's textile markets. It was there that she first met an Equatorial diplomat's wife who encouraged her to consider expanding her trade into Central Africa. The diplomat's wife had fallen in love with Meera's designs, a seamless blend of African prints and Indian craftsmanship. In 2018, Meera packed her life into 3 large suitcases and moved to Malabo. Over the next 6 years, Meera built what many considered a fashion empire on the island of Bioko. Her boutique, Desai Couture, became a magnet for ministers' wives, business executives, and expatriates alike. She employed local women, trained them in tailoring and embroidery, and was known for paying fair wages, a rarity in the region. But Meera's success and independence would soon draw the attention of someone far more powerful and dangerous. Baltasar Ngonga was not just another bureaucrat in Equatorial Guinea. As the head of the National Financial Investigation Agency (NFIA), he wielded immense power. He was feared, not admired. Charismatic but ruthless, Ngonga had long been accused of using his position to manipulate, extort, and intimidate. His public image, however, was that of a reformer, someone leading the charge against corruption and financial crimes. But in private, Ngonga was known for something far more sordid: his pursuit of women. Sources within the government now confirm what many had long whispered, that Ngonga maintained a secret dossier of his conquests, many of whom were wives and daughters of high-ranking officials. By the time his career collapsed in late 2024, over 200 names were linked to him in a leak that shook the nation's elite. And one name was not on the list: Meera Desai. It began innocuously, as such things often do. A sharply dressed man from the NFIA visited Desai Couture in early 2023, requesting a private fitting for a special client. Meera, used to handling VIP customers, agreed. Later that week, Baltasar Ngonga himself entered her store. He was charming, at first, Meera would later tell me during a rare interview. But too smooth. He didn't ask about clothes. He asked about me. What followed was a months-long campaign of subtle flirtation, lavish gifts, and dinner invitations, all of which Meera declined. Then came the not-so-subtle threats. He told me I had tax discrepancies, Meera said. That my residency paperwork needed review. He offered to make it all go away if I had dinner with him. I told him I don't mix business with personal favors. That dinner never happened. Shortly after her refusal, Meera's boutique was raided by the NFIA. The official reason was an investigation into unlicensed imports and financial irregularities. Meera was fined, her bank account was briefly frozen, and 2 of her staff were detained for questioning. Rumors swirled that she was being made an example. But Meera did not back down. She hired a lawyer. She went to the Indian embassy. She spoke, discreetly, to international human rights groups operating in the region. And most importantly, she documented everything: the visits, the messages, the threats. By the time the scandal broke in December 2024, when a cache of videos, images, and voice notes involving Baltasar Ingonga surfaced online, Mira's case file was ready. What followed was a media storm. The videos showed Ingonga with numerous women, some of whom were reportedly coerced. While much of the coverage focused on the lurid nature of the leaks, a parallel conversation emerged about power, abuse, and silence in Equatorial Guinea's elite circles, and about the rare woman who said no. Mira's story became a lightning rod for international advocacy groups. She was invited to speak anonymously at first at a UN Women's Forum in Addis Ababa. Her testimony became part of a broader push to establish stronger protections for women entrepreneurs in the region. In March 2025, the charges against Mira were quietly dropped. A senior official speaking under condition of anonymity said that Mira's case was clearly retaliation. Baltasar had a pattern, and she refused to be part of it. Baltasar Ingonga was officially dismissed from his post on December 28, 2024. He has not been seen in public since January. Some reports claim he's under house arrest, others believe he's fled the country. Mira still lives in Malabo. Her boutique has reopened. The window display is slightly more subdued now, but her spirit is unchanged. When I ask her if she's afraid, she pauses, then replies, "I didn't come here to be afraid. I came here to build. And I still believe women can build even when the world tries to break them." Mira Desai is now working with local NGOs to create a legal aid fund for foreign women entrepreneurs in Central Africa. She also mentors young designers from both Indian and African backgrounds, bridging not just cultures but courage. In a land where silence is often safer than resistance, Mira's refusal to compromise her dignity did more than protect herself. It helped pull down one of the most corrupt men in the country. And that, as any good tailor knows, is how you stitch strength into the fabric of society. It had just finished raining in Bata, the largest city in Equatorial Guinea. The streets were wet and shiny, and the air smelled fresh. On that quiet Saturday night, something happened that would change one woman's life forever. That woman was Mira Desai, a clothing business owner from India, living in Malabo. And that night, she had been invited to dinner by one of the most powerful men in the country, Baltasar Ingonga. At the time, Baltasar was the head of the National Financial Investigation Agency. He was rich, well-connected, and feared by many. He was known for using his power to get what he wanted, especially from women. For weeks, Baltasar had been trying to get close to Mira. He sent her gifts, called her often, and visited her boutique more than once. Mira didn't like the attention, but she didn't want to upset someone so powerful. So when he invited her to Bata for a friendly dinner, she agreed, hoping she could keep it professional. Mira flew to Bata on May 11, 2024. A driver picked her up and took her to a tall apartment building by the ocean. The apartment was on the 9th floor. It was very fancy, expensive furniture, big windows, and soft music playing in the background. Baltasar opened the door himself. He smiled and welcomed her warmly. He was wearing a silk shirt and gold jewelry. Everything about him looked rich and polished. He had prepared a nice dinner: seafood, Indian lentils, and French desserts. They talked for a while. At first, he asked about her work and her life. But then the conversation slowly changed. He started saying things like, "You're special," and "You shouldn't be alone tonight." Mira felt uncomfortable. After dinner, Baltasar sat down next to her on the couch. He poured more wine into her glass and looked at her closely. "You're always busy, always serious," he said. "Let someone take care of you." Then he gently touched her hand. Mira pulled her hand away and said, calmly, "I think I should go now." Baltasar stood up too. His smile faded a little. "You don't have to pretend," he said. "You know what this is." Women like you say no at first, but you'll change your mind. Mira didn't argue. She just stood up and walked toward the door. When she tried to open it, it was locked. Baltasar watched her and said, "Wrong button." Then he pressed something on the wall. The door unlocked. She walked out quickly. The hallway felt long and quiet. The elevator took too long. Her phone didn't have a signal. When she finally reached the lobby, the guards looked at her but didn't say anything. She tried to get a ride, but her request was cancelled. A hotel worker helped her find a private car. She stayed in a hotel near the airport that night. She was safe but shaken. She didn't sleep at all. Back in Malabo, Mira told her lawyer what had happened. She saved the text messages and emails. She didn't go to the police, because she didn't trust the system. But she was ready in case things got worse. And they did. Baltasar began causing problems for her. Government workers came to inspect her store. Her visa paperwork was delayed. Rumors were spread about her business. It was clear this was punishment for saying no. But Mira didn't give in. She stayed strong. Then, in December 2024, Baltasar's secret life became public. More than 200 women had been involved with him. Many said they were pressured or blackmailed. Videos, messages, and photos were leaked online. That was when Mira's story finally made sense to the public. Unlike many others, she had said no and walked away. Today, Baltasar is no longer in power. Some say he's hiding, others say he's under house arrest. His career is over. Mira is still in Malabo, still running her boutique. She's quiet, but confident. She helps local women with legal advice and teaches fashion to young designers. When I asked her if she thinks about that night, she said, "I didn't go there to be hurt. I went for dinner. But I left with my self-respect. And that means more than anything." She's right. Some nights change everything. Not because of what happens but because of what a woman refuses to allow. That night in Bata, Mira Desai made a choice. Why Mira said no? The courage to resist power. He could buy anything he wanted. But not me. Mira Desai said. A dangerous man with a perfect smile. In Equatorial Guinea, power often hides behind a smile. And no one smiled more confidently or more dangerously than Baltasar in Gonga. By 2024, Baltasar wasn't just a government official. He was the richest man in the country, the head of the National Financial Investigation Agency, and a shadow force behind many key decisions in the capital. He controlled money, secrets, and people. Known for his wealth, charm, and expensive taste, Baltasar wore Italian suits, drove German cars, and lived in apartments overlooking the sea. He had personal chefs, private bodyguards, and a lifestyle that made him look like a celebrity, not a civil servant. To the public, he was a symbol of success. To the people who really knew him, he was dangerous. Behind his charm was a dark pattern. Baltasar used his power to pursue women, especially women tied to business, politics, and high society. More than 200 women were later linked to him through leaked files, most of them pressured into intimacy through fear, flattery, or favors. Many gave in. Some were too scared to say no. But one woman didn't give in. Her name was Mira Desai. The woman who said no. Mira was not born into wealth or power. She came from Rajkot, India, a small city in Gujarat where her parents raised her on values of discipline, respect, and independence. Her mother was a school teacher who believed in education. Her father ran a textile shop that barely survived most years. Growing up, Mira learned two important lessons. Beauty fades. Character lasts. Never trade your dignity for comfort. She wasn't the tallest, the fairest, or the most glamorous woman in the room. But what she had was harder to find: self-respect, intelligence, and a deep understanding of right and wrong. When she moved to Equatorial Guinea and started her fashion business, Mira worked day and night to build a life on her own terms. She never accepted shortcuts. She hired local women, taught them embroidery, paid fair wages, and treated everyone with the same quiet strength. So when Baltasar walked into her boutique one day, his cologne strong, his words smooth, his interest clear, Mira didn't feel lucky or special. She felt warned. Some people asked later, why her? Why did Baltasar chase Mira, when he already had dozens of younger, more glamorous women around him? The answer is simple: for men like Baltasar, the chase is not about love. It's about control. And the women he couldn't control were the ones he wanted the most. Baltasar thought Mira would eventually give in like the others. He saw her as a woman without a powerful family, without political ties, without protection. To him, she was a target. But Mira was not like the others. She didn't care about his wealth. She didn't want government favors. She didn't dream of being close to power. She had already built a business with her own hands, her own time, and her own values. The moment he touched her hand in that apartment in Bata, something deep inside her answered back: no. Not like this. Never like this. And the motivation behind her refusal. So what gave Mira the strength to say no, when so many others couldn't? Here are the real reasons in her own words and through those who knew her best. Her mother's lessons. Mira often spoke of her mother. A schoolteacher who walked to work even during monsoons, her mother raised her daughters to be independent. She told me once, Mira said, if a man thinks your body is his reward, you walk away even if he owns the sky. I remembered that when Baltasar reached for my hand. Respect for herself and her staff. Mira employed over 30 women, most of them young mothers and daughters of farmers. They looked up to her not just as a boss, but as a role model. What message would I send if I gave in, she said. That you must sell yourself to succeed. That you have to trade silence for survival. To her, that was betrayal. She knew his kind before. Baltasar wasn't the first man who tried to use his position for personal gain. In Dubai, years ago, Mira had once turned down a senior buyer who offered her a fashion deal in exchange for a weekend trip. I learned early that some doors open too easily. And they always lead to dark places, she said. She was already whole. Unlike many who seek power to feel important, Mira already knew who she was. She had purpose, pride, and peace. She didn't need protection from a powerful man. She didn't want his gifts or his money. I've eaten rice with salt in my childhood. I'm not afraid of losing comfort. But I will never lose myself, she said. Mira paid a price for saying no. Her boutique was inspected. Her residency papers were delayed. She received threats, gossip, and even subtle warnings from people close to the government. But she didn't give in. And when the videos and scandals exploded across the internet in late 2024, when Baltasar's secret was no longer a whisper but a scream, Mira's choice became clear to the world. She wasn't just another name left out of the 200. She was the woman who stood up and walked out. Dignity is power. Today, Mira continues her business. Quietly, calmly, with pride. She has been invited to speak at women's leadership events in Africa and India. She refuses most of them. I'm not a hero, she says. I just said no. But for many young women watching her from the shadows, she is exactly that, a hero. Baltasar had charm, money, and control. Mira had only one thing: her self-respect. And in the end, that was more powerful than all the rest. When a woman says no to power, she rewrites the story. On your row. I didn't say no because I was married. I said no because I'm Mira. Mira Desai, in a private conversation, April 2025. The rumors that followed. After the night Mira Desai walked out of Baltasar in Ganga's luxury apartment in Beta in May 2024, whispers followed her like a shadow. In the markets of Malabo, in WhatsApp groups among the elite, and in quiet corners of business meetings, people ask the same question in different ways. Why would a woman like her say no to a man like Baltasar? To many, it was unthinkable. Baltasar was the most powerful man in the country at the time, head of the National Financial Investigation Agency, fabulously wealthy, and known for his charm. He had seduced or coerced over 200 women, many of them from high-ranking families, military backgrounds, or top business circles. His record wasn't just of seduction, it was of domination. And no one had publicly resisted him. So when Mira did quietly but firmly, people needed a reason. And for some, the explanation was simple. She's married. That's why. She was scared of her husband. If she was single, it would have been different. But were they right? To understand the truth, we need to look deeper into who Mira really is, what her marriage is like, and what values shaped her long before Baltasar ever walked into her life. A love based on respect, not fear. Yes, Mira was and still is married. Her husband, Raghav Desai, is a mechanical engineer. He works for an international firm that focuses on renewable energy in West Africa. While Mira runs her boutique in Malabo, Raghav often travels between Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, and Senegal for work. They married in 2015 in a simple ceremony in Ahmedabad. No flashy jewelry. No celebrity guests. Just close family, simple food, and a quiet promise between two people who respected each other's dreams. From the beginning, their relationship was built not on control, but on independence. Mira had already told Raghav before their marriage, "If I ever feel like I have to shrink to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be, I leave. I want partnership, not permission." And Raghav had agreed. In fact, he supported her dream of building a business in Africa even when others in their family worried about her safety. "He never asked me to stay home," Mira once told a friend. "He asked me to be safe. That's it. I was never afraid of Raghav. He's not that kind of man." So when people assume that Mira said no to Baltasar because she was afraid of her husband, they misunderstood her entirely. She didn't say no because she was married. She said no even though she didn't need a man to protect her. What if Mira had been single? Here is the more difficult question. Would Mira have accepted Baltasar's offer if she had been single? This question has circled around gossip groups and business circles for months. Some people assume the answer is yes, that if she had no husband, no risk of shame, and no reputation to lose, she might have spent the night with him. But people who know Mira well, her employees, her close friends, her family, say something else. She would have still walked out, said Linan Gamer, her assistant. That's just how she is. She doesn't need a man's last name to say no. She needs a reason to say yes. Mira herself, when asked the same question in a close conversation, answered like this: "Whether I'm married or not doesn't change how I see myself. A man who tries to buy my attention with wine, power, or threats doesn't deserve me, no matter my status. My values don't depend on my relationship status." Her response reflects the deeper truth. Her refusal wasn't about her husband. It was about her self-worth. If she had been single, would she have accepted money or gifts in return for closeness? No. She would have been even more alert, even more guarded, because she'd have no partner watching her back. Baltasar didn't lose to a husband. He lost to a woman who knew exactly who she was. The real risk not to her marriage, but to her dignity. For many of the 200-plus women Baltasar was involved with, the decision to go along came from fear, not just fear of losing a job, but fear of losing safety, immigration status, or protection. Some were single, some married, some divorced, and none of that changed how vulnerable they were to his power. Mira understood this. She saw the danger. But she also knew something else. Even if she gave in for one night, the consequences would last much longer than the memory. Baltasar was known for leaking photos, for using women and then abandoning them, for reminding them again and again that their careers now depended on his mood. If Mira had spent the night, she wouldn't just risk her marriage. She would risk her peace, her freedom, and her control over her own story. That was the line she refused to cross. And for that, many women admire her not because she was married, but because she chose dignity over fear. Marriage as a mirror, not a cage. Mira's marriage is strong, but not because Rogov controls her. It's strong because they both believe in choice. When I told him about that night, Mira shared privately, he didn't ask me why I went. He asked me how I felt. And when I said I left, he said, "Of course you did." That was it. No shouting. No drama. Just trust. Marriage, in Mira's life, isn't a reason for fear. It's a mirror that reflects her values back to her. She didn't say no to Baltasar because she had to. She said no because she wanted to, and because her husband would never expect her to say yes to something that made her uncomfortable. A woman's no is not owned by a man. In the end, Mira's story is about choice. Her no was her own, not her husband's, not society's, not fears. And that makes it all the more powerful. Baltasar believed that every woman had a price. Mira proved that some women have principles instead. She may be married, yes. But her courage was not borrowed from her husband. It was built over years of living with values and refusing to trade them for comfort. A woman's no is not a gift from her husband. It is the voice of her own soul.